Welcome into the Wiltfong Whiparound with Steve Wiltfong. Today is Monday, September 29th. I am your host, Josh Newberg, and week 5 of the college football season is in the books. Now, depending on what top 10 team you root for, it was either a weekend full of fun or a weekend full of heartbreak. There was absolute carnage this weekend, and in this video, we're going to talk about the recruiting fallout from another crazy weekend in college football. But before we get to it, guys, do me a favor, hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. Also, join Rivals today. Get 1 year full access to The Athletic, plus all the On3 national and fan site content. I will put the link in the description of this video. All right, let's bring in national analyst Steve Wiltfong. Steve, let's start with the Oregon Ducks because they were the biggest winner of the weekend. 30-24, double OT thriller over Penn State in a whiteout. Steve, that was an impressive win.
Yeah, and I'm hearing, talking to some sources around the Oregon football program, that the noise that was piped into practice to prepare the Ducks for this environment was louder than what they experienced in State College, and they were able to get their play calls in the huddle, and now certainly still went on a silent cadence during the ball game. Incredible environment. Penn State battled, but Oregon was able to pull out a win, the biggest win any program has this season. Two teams that could very well see each other again in the college football playoff, but this one certainly resonated with the Oregon recruits. You know, talking to Messiah Hampton, who's from New York, who chose Oregon over Penn State and others, called it legendary, best team in the country, real deal. You know, Bryson Beaver, quarterback commit, to tune into a Big Ten powerhouse like Penn State, beat a team like that is huge. For a team to be able to overcome a comeback like that on the road, a place like Penn State in a whiteout game is amazing. The Coach Lanning post-game interview, they all loved, but his reaction, this is what Oregon commits expected. And they love this coaching staff, the way they prepare this team to play, the way they maximize this roster. They get young kids on the field. You got Finney starting in the secondary, Brandon Finney. He at one point looked like he was going to flip from Oregon to Penn State. Oregon keeps him in the fold. He's in the starting lineup for the win. DeCorian Moore, De'Air Hill, Jordan Davison, a lot of super freshmen on the field there for Oregon. I talked to five-star edge rusher Anthony Tank Jones. He was at A&M when I talked to him. But he said, hey, showing they're coming for that natty, building that program better every year. I think he's going to be tough to flip. Manny Iheanacho, the jewel of the class, five-star from Baltimore, obviously reported early in the week that he was going to be at Penn State. The Nittany Lions were going to get another bite at the apple. I think Penn State actually canceled that visit because they know they're not a player. Heard around Thursday, the communication about the visit died down, and he wasn't going to visit any longer, so he wasn't there. Cornerback Devin Jackson was there from Florida, but he says his recruitment shut down and he's committed to Oregon. The other flip target in Oregon's class right now is Jalen Lott. Texas is still on the gas for him. Number 2 athlete in the country, number 31 player in the land. He's a Lone Star State native. He's a Texas legacy. His dad was a track and field standout, also played football there, was an all-conference player for the Longhorns on the gridiron. But everything I'm hearing, it's still good for Oregon. So Texas would still have work to do to flip Jalen Lott for the Ducks. So the win resonated for what's in the fold for Oregon to date. Certainly wins like that remind these kids that continue to hear from other programs why they picked Oregon, what they love about Dan Lanning, how they utilize their players, how they're able to go into an environment like Penn State, one of the top teams in the country, and knock them off and really show resiliency. There was a time where they were dominating the game. You know, they were up 2 scores, 17-3. Then Penn State found a rhythm. So much so that when Oregon scored in overtime, I thought that they should go for 2 to end the game because I didn't think they could stop Penn State. They kicked the extra point. Then they get the leaping interception by Indianapolis area native Dylan Thieneman to seal the deal. Big win for Oregon. Now they're on a bye week. They're going to spend a lot of it recruiting. And then they host the Indiana Hoosiers at home in Autzen Stadium in 2 weekends for another top 10 showdown for Oregon, 2 in a row.
Yeah, we're going to see if we can send you out. We got to see what the Wiltfong Whiparound budget is, but I'd love to get you out there and do a live recruit reaction show. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, though. That would be fun. We'll work on that. But you mentioned some talented freshmen that got some burn, actually, that made, not just got some burn, made huge plays in this one, including Jordan Davison, Decorian Moore. But let's turn the page on that. Oregon Ducks are fighting for a number one class right now. Is there anybody on this current commit list that you think could make an impact next season for Oregon?
Yeah, I think you look at Manny Iheanacho right away, 6'7", 380 pounds. He is someone that is physically going to walk in to Oregon's football program and be someone that I think can play. And it's a tough position to play early at, but I think he has the traits to do so. They got some special players in this class at other positions. Jet Washington is a rangy safety, 6'4.5", 200 pounds. They can cover a lot of ground in the secondary. Kendry Harrison, a 6'6", 250-pound tight end. That's one of the top high school football players in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And Davon Benjamin, he is Rivals' number one ranked cornerback. He is already basically in the kind of reminds me of Caleb Downs when Caleb Downs committed to Alabama. He's already immersed himself in learning Oregon's defense, having regular conversations with Coach Lupoy, Coach Hampton, Coach Lanning, and the staff, so he can be best prepared mentally to come in and understand what they're trying to execute, to give him a chance to get on the field early. Obviously, there's a lot of great players in this class, guys like Messiah Hampton, who we talked about that I think have the traits to come in and play early. Those are the guys that come to mind right away.
All right, Steve, let's wrap this up by talking about the impact from this win and what's next for Oregon recruiting.
Let's talk game time. College football and the NFL are in high gear. The Major League Baseball playoffs are upon us. I'm looking for my tickets to a wild card series right now. We need our tickets, and getting deals on the last minute tickets can be frustrating when all you want to be is there when your team runs out on the field. Well, thankfully, the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing ticket experiences, and it only takes a few simple clicks. The app is easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means you can trust that you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay, and that's why I use Game Time. It's super simple, and it makes the experience of buying great seats a breeze. One of the coolest items on Game Time is the lowest price guarantee. It's where Game Time will credit you 100% of the difference to guarantee you're getting the lowest price if you find cheaper tickets elsewhere. So here's what we're going to do. If you haven't already, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code Wiltfong for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's Wiltfong, WILTFONG on the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Well, obviously, I think for Oregon and what they're trying to do with their roster, the focus is on roster retention at this point, right? They have a lot of really good young players that they want to keep in this program, continue to develop them so they can play championship football for years to come. I think on the recruiting trail, defensive tackle is, well, before we even get into that, then keeping the guys they already have committed in the fold is a priority, and I think they're doing well for that. So you have roster retention, keep the guys committed in the fold. And then there are some needs still out there in the 2026 class that starts with defensive tackle. I think if they were drafting their next player, it would be a D tackle. I could see them competing on the modern recruiting front for a said defensive tackle. So guard your commits if you're out there. And then I think that they would, they're looking for some skill players, particularly at wide receiver. I think those are going to be senior year evals. Guys that aren't household recruiting names, but guys that are having really good senior seasons that they think are good enough to play at Oregon that maybe don't come with the modern recruiting tags that a lot of these blue chippers come with, So that's where Oregon recruiting's at right now. Retain the roster, retain the class, find another premium defensive tackle, and then get some value guys, some guys that are really good that want to come to Oregon and play on that stage and prove themselves, that are having really good senior seasons.
All right, Duck fans, talk to Steve and I. How are you feeling throughout that game? So many ups and downs, momentum changes. Were you on board the whole time? Did you ever doubt it? Talk to us in the comment section below. Huge win for the Ducks. Let's talk a little Texas A&M as the Aggies capitalize on a big SEC win at home over Auburn. And A&M is in the mix for that number one class in 2026, but they added a big 2027 commitment over the weekend. Cornerback Hakeem Frampton walked on campus, and Steve, he just got it out of the way, just committed right before the game started. Then the game goes on. Great win. What are you hearing in terms of Aggie buzz coming out of this one?
Yeah, Frampton committed to Texas A&M before the game. That was a guy that they prioritized early in the 2027 cycle. They obviously love him on film and his potential in the secondary. They got him in the fold. Then they went out and took care of business on the field, beating Auburn. They are 4-0 for the first time since 2016. A year ago in Mike Elko's first season, they were one game away from playing for the SEC championship. They eye the SEC title game this year. They want to make a run in the college football playoff, and they want to compete for national championships for years to come. And if they can land the majority of recruits that were on campus this weekend, they're going to be an absolute force in college football. Many of their commits were back in this top 10 class in 2026, including quarterback Helaman Kasuga. And then in the 2027 cycle, they are in the top 10 early. And when you look at all the number one players that they had at their respective positions in College Station this weekend, they have a chance to finish with the number one overall class with these juniors that were on campus. And that included their quarterback commit, Jace Johnson, who returned.
All right. So speaking of all these number ones, just an absolute ridiculous amount. One of the names I want to talk about is number one defensive lineman Jalen Brewster, because he announces his commitment this Saturday. Yes, like 6 days from now, he's going to be announcing a commitment. So he was in College Station this weekend, but do the Aggies lead?
Well, they have a chance. He has a top 12. I expect that list to be cut down to a top 5 ahead of his Saturday commitment decision. Yeah. Texas A&M getting the last visit. And this is a program that him and his family are very excited about. I talked to his dad, Robert Brewster, who played for the Dallas Cowboys. Before that, played for the Ball State Fighting Football Cardinals up there in Muncie, Indiana. And he talked about how they liked it's a family atmosphere at Texas A&M. There are some Ball State connections at Texas A&M right now, from assistant coach Joey Lynch to Riley Hecklinski, who is the daughter of Jeff Hecklinski, who was a coach at Ball State when Robert played over there. So just some little small minutia details that make the Brewster family more comfortable with College Station and Texas A&M. Their defensive coordinator, Jay Bateman, was a defensive coordinator for the Cardinals at one point in his career as well. But they like the way that Texas A&M helps their players on and off the field, certainly the way they're playing. We know Texas A&M can go toe-to-toe in most modern recruitment battles. Now, Texas Tech is the trending pick on the Rivals prediction machine, but the way that Jalen Brewster and his family and representation are talking to these programs, the door is open for other schools, and Texas A&M is one of those programs that could run right through it and land him over the weekend.
All right, well, that's a recruitment that we are going to continue to cover all the way up until Saturday because, like you said, it's kind of wide open. Let's talk about, there's a 5-star flip target on campus. I mean, with all these number one players in 2027, how can we forget about Anthony Tank Jones, the 5-star edge from the state of Alabama, committed to Oregon, but he's been taking visits to Miami, and now he ends up at Texas A&M. What are you hearing coming out of this one?
Yeah, he's been to Miami twice this season. If you're Oregon, you don't like your commits taking visits anywhere. I still think right now they're in control of this recruitment. Regarding Texas A&M's position, I don't get the sense that they made a big move on Oregon this weekend. I think there's a lot of love for the Aggies, the way he fits in their scheme. They were one of the coaching staffs that were on him the earliest. They've known him for over 2 years. I think they're just going out and seeing some games and making sure that the decision for Oregon was the right one. And talking to people that spent time with Tank Jones in College Station over the weekend, I don't get the sense that there's any kind of rising confidence regarding a flip for the prize senior pass rusher.
All right, Steve, let's wrap this up with the final intel from this big 2027 visit weekend. Who's trending to the Aggies coming out of this one?
Well, coming out of his latest visit to Texas A&M, his second of the fall, he's been there several times already. His rivals number one ranked interior offensive lineman in the 2027 class, Albert Simeon from Louisiana. Sam Spiegelman spoke with his mother. I spoke with Albert following the visit. Albert told me that Texas A&M is setting the pace in this recruitment. We now have predictions for Texas A&M to ultimately land the blue chipper. Now, Shea Dixon, our colleague over at the Bengal Tiger, still feels strong about LSU getting this done, keeping him home. I certainly don't discount that. I just think the current pulse right now favors Texas A&M for Albert Simeon, and we'll see how his process continues. Cooper Witten, the number one ranked linebacker in the country, was back at Texas A&M. I think the Aggies are one of the front runners in that recruitment as they battle Oklahoma, Tennessee, Clemson, Ohio State, to name a few. I think they're rising up the list for number one ranked cornerback Joshua Dobson, a five-star from the Carolinas who had a really good visit, likes the scheme and style of play. And number one ranked tight end Ahmad Hudson. My prediction is on LSU, but Texas A&M, Nebraska, a couple of the programs trying to chip away at the Tigers for Ahmad Hudson.
All right, Aggie fans, talk to Steve and I. Who do you want to see Texas A&M land coming off another big SEC win? Let us know, comment section below. Let's talk some Ole Miss recruiting because Oxford's still hungover after that win over LSU, probably the biggest in the Lane Kiffin era, a signature win for him and Ole Miss. And there was some action on the recruiting trail. We're going to talk about a big Sunday night flip of a Michigan commitment. But first, Steve, there was a top 10 quarterback making his first visit to Ole Miss over the weekend. How did it go for Keegan Croucher?
First visit for some of his family, Josh, four-star quarterback, Ole Miss's top target at the position, perhaps their top overall target in 2027. He was there with his parents. He was there for his older brother, saw the Rebels dominate LSU. The game was not as close as the final score indicated, saw an explosive offense. Jackson Dart, number one draft pick by the New York Giants, getting his first start, getting a win. He spent the day in Oxford on Sunday, went to the game on Saturday, spent time on campus on Sunday. It was his mom's first time seeing it. He told me Ole Miss is setting the pace right now. So my rival's prediction is on Lane Kiffin and the Rebels. They were one of the first schools to recruit him. Great relationships with Coach Charlie Weiss Jr., Coach Judge, Coach Kiffin. Again, the offense, the vibe around campus, the SEC. Now he's going to be at Penn State for the Indiana game. Oregon's still very much a contender, but it is Ole Miss setting the tone for Keegan Croucher, their top target at the position in 2027, and my prediction reflects that.
All right. When do you think he could be coming off the board? Is this something that's going to happen this fall? Do you think it's maybe around the new year? Like, what's the timetable here?
Well, I know he's got Penn State for the Indiana game on the itinerary. We'll see. Obviously, Lane Kiffin, whatever today is, Lane Kiffin and the Rebels would love to have had him committed yesterday. And so whatever, they're doing whatever they can to get this one done. But he's got his process that he's going through, and he has high interest in Penn State and certainly in Oregon, and has said a lot of great things about both of those programs as well. But he said Ole Miss leads coming out of this visit, or they're setting the bar for him at this time. I know his family had a fabulous time on campus. It's, again, the offense, where this program is at, how they're competing. This is a team that's in the SEC title hunt. They're in contention for the college football playoff and more. They're one of the more fun programs in college football this year. And Keegan Croucher's getting swept up in all of it and sees a place where he could be very successful. And then they surrounded him on campus with a top 20 recruiting class in 2026 and some of the best wide receivers and offensive linemen and running backs in the country in 2027 and 2028, showing him how they're recruiting, how they're going to continue to stay competitive. Lane Kiffin's had 3 10-plus winning seasons at Ole Miss, tracking for a fourth this year, but he wants to win all the marbles. And Keegan Crouch is a guy that they think can help take him to the promised land if it doesn't happen before he gets there. And they're in on the right recruiting battles in 2027 and 2028 to keep it rolling.
Yeah. And, we talk a lot about these big visit weekends and how a loss during a big visit weekend, it doesn't make or break recruiting, but this is why it's important. I mean, look at this. Ole Miss loses this game. It's not the same reaction. You got one chance to get Keegan Croucher and his family on campus for a big game. To win the game, you see what happens. The predictions start rolling in. Keegan Croucher is going to remember this. No matter how many more visits he takes, he'll never forget the experience he had in Oxford. Just an unbelievable win. And, he might not have been ready to make a decision, but there was others that were. Dorian Barney, a DB out of the state of Georgia, committed to Michigan right here on this channel in July. Steve, he flipped his commitment on Sunday evening. How did Ole Miss get that one done?
Well, they stayed on him the entire time since he committed to Michigan. They never wavered in the intensity here. And the way they're playing, I mean, they're 5-0 right now. Proximity to home, closer to home. I think that made him more comfortable with his decision to go to Ole Miss over Michigan. But the relationships with the staff, the style of play, watching Pete Golding and that defense go out there and absolutely shut down absolutely shut down Nussmeier and that potentially prolific LSU offense. I think just being around the program, the people, the staff, the culture, the environment, where this thing is going, he sees a national championship at Ole Miss's future. He thinks he can help get them there, and he flips from Michigan to Ole Miss.
Huge pickup. You hit on some of the big 2027 names. Let's wrap this up. Who do you think they made the biggest impact with?
Well, there seems to be a lot of buzz around Ole Miss and Louisiana five-star receiver Easton Royal. Now, anytime you're recruiting against the LSU Tigers in the state of Louisiana, it's an uphill battle. But the Rebels have some inroads with Easton Royal, and they'll keep pushing. Same with Tennessee. Anytime you're recruiting against Tennessee for a coveted in-state target, like top 50 player Keyshawn Bowman, wide receiver from Brentwood Academy, it's tough sledding, but he left Ole Miss gushing about the visit, from the energy around campus, in the stadium, to the fans showing love, to the SEC atmosphere, to how they're playing this year, the confidence the players have, how they play fast and aggressive. He was thinking about being part of it himself. What stands out to him is just how genuine the coaches are, how much energy the whole program has right now. Obviously, he's high on Tennessee, but he says Ole Miss brings a lot to the table. He's just out there trying to find the best fit. Caden Moss is an in-state offensive lineman, an elite player that I think Ole Miss is setting the pace for. Same with LaMarcus Jones, a 4-star in-state offensive lineman. So Ole Miss having a great weekend, beating LSU. And 2028, I want to mention to you, is the number 1 ranked running back in the country, Josh, Zayden Jernigan. He's from in-state. He says Ole Miss leads early.
All right, there it is, Ole Miss fans. How are we feeling? Biggest win in the Lane Kiffin era, unless you guys can think of a bigger one. But what do you think the recruiting fallout's going to be?
Georgia last year, but I just think the timing of this one to stay undefeated, I still rock with this one too.
Yeah, I do too. What about you guys? Let us know. Comment section below. We're talking Penn State because over 100 recruits were on campus, and Saturday night it was a whiteout. It was live. Penn State just didn't get the win, but we got new predictions coming out of the weekend. So, Steve, who is trending towards the Nittany Lions?
Well, I logged 4 predictions in favor of Penn State for 4 in-state targets that were in Happy Valley for the whiteout. The Nittany Lions didn't get the win in the regular season against Oregon, but they could run up against them in the college football playoff. In Ohio State, ask the Buckeyes how that worked out for them last year. Now, Penn State has to show they can bounce back from this game and get it rolling and push towards the college football playoff. No doubt in my mind that they can. This is a program that consistently competes at a high level under James Franklin and company. And these recruits feel like they can help keep it rolling and maybe help Penn State win that last game of the year down the road. It starts with the number 4 wide receiver in the country, Matthew Gregory. I felt for a while that the Nittany Lions were the team to beat. Now, he's still looking at other programs, having conversations, going to take some more visits. But I like Penn State's position, so my prediction currently reflects that. Same for in-state athlete Carter Bonner, in-state edge rusher Abraham Cisse, and linebacker Brandon Lockley. All three of those guys had a fantastic experience, could see themselves playing in that type of environment. Love the way that Penn State competes and develops their players, the support that program gets. The Nittany Lions already have the number one class in the country in 2027, Josh, coming off that Final Four appearance in college football's playoff last year. And they are in great position to add several more local in-state targets that they covet to keep it rolling in the future.
All right, so despite the loss, I mean, I know the guys that you predicted, obviously you heard back good things, but how did some blue chip recruits react to that double OT thriller?
Hey, everybody, it's Steve Wiltfong over at On3 Rivals. Let's talk Game Time, the Game Time app, your go-to source to get your tickets. The NFL season is heating up right now. College football, the fight for your team's spot in the college football playoff is exciting as ever before. And now we also have the Major League Baseball playoffs going on. You need to download the Game Time app for the best price on tickets to see your favorite team take the field. The app is easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means you can trust that you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. And one of the coolest features at Game Time is that low price guarantee. It's where Game Time will credit you 100% of the difference to guarantee you're getting the lowest price if you find cheaper tickets elsewhere. So here's what we're going to do. Download that Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code WILTFONG for $20 off your first purchase. That is WILTFONG, WILTFONG, 20% off those last minute tickets. And this will be the best price guaranteed. Well, a guy like Anthony Sweeney out of Olney, Maryland, Good Counsel High, they are one of the favorites for him. He's the number 4 edge rusher in the country. He's the number 18 player overall. The way Penn State develops defensive ends, the style of play, the way they get after the quarterback, they are annually one of the most disruptive teams in the country when it comes to tackles for loss and sacks. So that speaks to him. The number 1 interior offensive lineman in the country, Maxwell Hiller, was another headliner on campus. And Penn State's at or near the top of his list as he looks at a national offer list. Now, South Carolina, they went up into the region and landed Darius Gray last cycle. This 2026 cycle, they'll be a thorn in the side for Maxwell Hiller as he looks around at other programs. But those are 2 national notables. Kalel Johnson is a highly recruited offensive tackle out of Ohio that had an unforgettable experience at Penn State. But they did really well with prospects from the DMV and New Jersey this weekend. And that's what the Whiteout's about from a recruiting standpoint. Certainly it's great to get your 2026 commits back. They did have some guys that are potential flip targets on campus this weekend. I think the one that you look at the most is wide receiver Josiah Teasley. He's committed to Virginia, but he had a fantastic time at Penn State. Said the passionate fan base, that's undeniable. Who wouldn't want to play in that atmosphere? You know, UVA was first to offer him. They're playing at a high level, but Penn State, just the prestige level and consistent level of play, have him intrigued. He's going to play out his senior season and continue through his process. So he's probably the biggest flip target on campus. Carter Gooden committed to UCLA, 4-star defensive lineman, another one to keep an eye on in 2026. And then they had like over 100 kids on campus with offers in 2027 and 2028. That this kind of weekend, it's unforgettable, as some of these recruits said, playing in that atmosphere. James Franklin and his staff do a good job of interacting with these kids at the game, making them feel at home. And then certainly the regular recruiting that goes in with making these guys feel like a priority.
All right. Penn State fans, talk to us. How you feeling? We're not trying to spin this as a moral victory, but like Steve said, there's a good chance at this game we see a replay of this game, maybe with the stakes even higher. So talk to us. How you feeling about the Penn State program moving forward? Let us know. Comment section below.